And it made me wonder, I mean, I know what my answer to that question would be. I wonder what you thought in terms of why do you love historical fiction? What is it about it that draws you into it?
I have to admit, I had a little chuckle when she said, I didn't do history or journalism. And I was like, that's exactly what I did. So my background is that I did an undergraduate degree in history and then a graduate degree in journalism, and was a journalist for a number of years before deciding to move on from the business. And I've always loved the research side of things. I think in another life, I would have probably tried to go into academia and have tried to pursue a career in history. But I think for me, the additional thing that historical fiction adds is I really love exploring the things that you don't necessarily get to, you don't always have the access to when you write or research history, which is how real people felt, thought, lived, people who are not necessarily just the ones who had big biographies written about them and things like that, but everyday people and ordinary people. And I think that's one of the really big appeals for me writing World War II fiction, and specifically writing predominantly about women, is a lot of those stories are still coming to light. And I meet people who talk about, I had no idea that my grandmother was at Bletchley, or, my parents lived through the Blitz, and they've only just started talking about, or we've just found a family diary talking about, what happened during the war. So I think there's that discovery, and then that connection with story and narrative and character that I really love. But how about you? Because you write in a very different time period, but I think so many of these things are applicable across the board, no matter what era you write about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say it sort of comes out of your background of history and journalism, because I suppose in a way my enthusiasm comes out of a background in archaeology, which tends to kind of couch you in a slightly more distant time period. But one of my frustrations, I did it as my undergraduate degree, and I sort of enjoyed it, but not as much as I thought I was going to enjoy it. I was probably in a very ill-advised way informed about choosing archaeology as a degree, because I really enjoyed the Indiana Jones movies when I was a kid. But that was kind of what I was looking for, was the Indiana Jones experience of archaeology. And so the reality was like these sort of images of foundations of old buildings, and it just didn't come to life at all. And it was probably a good decade or 15 years of life experience before I realized that the solution to my problem was actually historical fiction, that actually you can kind of time travel because your imagination is so engaged, your emotions, all the detail that you've just described, but also you feel it when you're writing the stuff. And of course, that's why people like to read it as well. So that's really what it was for me. It's this opportunity to kind of time travel in a way that I don't think anything else can replicate.
Yeah, it feels like such a luxury being able to do that. And whether it's sort of escaping from everyday life or just diving into an era that you really love, I think it's a wonderful experience. Thanks for watching this clip from the History Quill Podcast, all about writing and publishing historical fiction. If you want to find out more about the topics discussed, check the description for a link to the full episode and the episode page on our website, where you can access a range of relevant resources. You can also join our email list to receive new podcast episodes and more content for historical fiction writers. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and switch on notifications.